Well, good afternoon from St Andrews. I'm here today because Mary Cooper, Alistair McGregor, Claire Coates and I have been giving some thought as to how we might be able to come back and start services. The government has indicated that it wants to start services sometime in July if possible, but it's going to be subject to strict guidelines. We don't have those guidelines yet, but when we do, we can anticipate the sort of things that they will say. It's going to be things like hand washing. Well, we can set up some sort of hand washing out here, I expect, but also subject to spacing. And that's going to be a major problem. So I thought I'd do a video and we can look together at the sort of problems we might face. Let's go inside. And here we are in the vestry. Most of you will have been in at some point. It's a small space. I'll just measure how wide it is. (2.10 meters). Pretty hard for even two people to operate safely in here. There's enough length, but not much in the way of width. Upstairs is smaller. Of course, down here, before our main services, we might have 12 or 15 members of the choir getting robed and 3 or 4 people involved in other roles up front. So no way can all that happen in a safe way once we return. Another thing we're going to have to rethink. So here's the front set of pews. I have my trusty tape measure. First thing we need to do is a bit of measuring. I wonder how far it is from one pew to the one in front. Let's check. 80 odd centimetres. That means that people can't sit directly in front and behind each other. They're going to have to sit diagonally. We probably knew that anyway. Let's see what that might look like. I've brought some people with me. So I've put my first person in, nice yellow balloon, right on the end of the pew because they realise they've got to make as much space as possible. But where can the next person on that pew sit? Well, take a look at this. Right over there. See, just in front of the pillar. That's 2 meters spacing. Now, can we fit someone in the pew behind, or do we have to go to the pew behind that? Let's take a look. So here's the answer to that question. Here's the first one I put in, yellow balloon in the front row, and then the green one right at the back there. You can't put someone in the middle pew here. There simply isn't enough room. The next nearest person is the blue one here, and then you can just fit one more at the far end of the pew. So I reckon in this front block of 3 pews you can probably get 4 people in. You might be able to get 5 if you find another clever way of doing it, but I reckon 4. And of course, if any of them have got a little one with them, here's my little kid, then the spacing has to move a bit further the other way too. So you can see we've got a major problem. Now we've got 22 pews in the church. I've got 4 people in 3 pews. We're going to get about 28 to 30, something like that, in the pews. We might be able to juggle it and get a few more. We might be able to put seats in the aisles and get a bit more spacing that way. But we've got to have that flow around the church. You can see there's a problem for us to consider. Let's have a look at how the choir stalls work. Well, you've got the story by now. There's someone on the front of the altos row, scan along, and nearly at the end of the alto row is 2 meters, where that white balloon is. And you couldn't put anyone in the back row as it stands. Obviously we might be able to space out the stalls and benches a bit more, use a bit more space at the front. We could also use the space at the front to put the choir benches out for more seating for members of the congregation. Lots of things we can do, but it's going to take some thinking. We've got the chancel too, of course. We might be able to use that space and the Lady Chapel as well. And there are other problems too, of course. Here's me coming up to the lectern. What do I usually do with my hands? Boom, on the lectern. I put them here. Up comes the person who's leading the service with me. Hands on the lectern. Up comes the person leading our intercessions or doing our reading. Hands on the lectern. So little problems like that. And that's all before we get to the problems of receiving communion, which we talked about a lot before the lockdown. There we are. That's the challenge we face. Restricted space, lots of people moving around, not much circulation space, lots of touching of surfaces throughout our usual services. So we're going to have a rethink. And that's what Alistair, Mary and Claire and I have been doing. What we think at the moment is that, first of all, the exit from lockdown is going to be gradual. I think that will probably be forced upon us by any guidelines that emerge. There may be age limitations, or there may be other limitations, and even if there aren't strictly legal limitations, we suspect that people are going to take their time coming back. Each of us will have our own reasons for what we do. So I think our congregations will be smaller to start with. They may also show a different age group. There's been a lot of talk about that, and it may be so people think that older people will stay away. I'm not wholly convinced of that. If you have been isolated really on your own for a long time, then the incentive to come back and the benefit gained from coming back is rather greater than for those of us who've been lucky enough to be isolated with others. So the congregational makeup as well as the numbers might be different, or it might not be. We are going to have to carry on with our online services as well. I'm sure of that. We're looking into getting Wi-Fi in the church, so we might be able to do some live streaming as well as the recorded broadcasts that we've done so far. I hope we can, because we need to reduce the burden on Claire and I, which at the moment is quite considerable. I'm not sure that we could put on a full programme of services and a full programme of recorded broadcasts. It will be easier if we can live stream some using Wi-Fi in the church. Even so, with smaller congregational size and the new style of services that we're going to have to grapple with, and the added work of keeping an online presence going as well, what we're thinking at the moment is to start with just one service on a Sunday and see how we go. We think we should set that as a marker that this is going to be different. At 10:30 a.m. each Sunday, we are not sure yet of the shape the service will take. It will depend slightly on who's coming. It may not be appropriate to do a Eucharist every week as the main service. It may be that we space that out a bit more. And we would hope to move to a greater variety of services from that one service anyway fairly quickly. But change is likely to be the order of the day, change forced upon us to a very large degree. Your thoughts as to how we can make this safe would be very welcome. I mean that. I've already asked the PCC and had some very useful input from them, as you would hope and expect. But if any of you have got thoughts as to how we can make this safe, something I haven't mentioned already, or something that you think needs emphasising more, then please do get in touch. It'll be welcome. We're thinking hard and trying to work out the best thing to reopen the church, do some really good engaging services that will help to rebuild the church, and to keep everyone safe. And that's the absolute priority. I think that's it for now. I'm going to write to everyone on our database as well, but if you think that someone who's involved in the church has missed out either on the video or the letter, then please do help them to get the necessary information. God bless, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. goodbye from our lovely Lady Chapel. Isn't it a lovely spot?